In this course, I will teach you how to vibe code from start to finish. By the end of this course, you will be able to build apps, websites, web apps, mobile apps, systems, and automations with vibe coding and AI. I've divided this course into multiple lessons, which will cover all the skills you need to vibe code useful applications. And we'll also be building 3 real-life projects, 2 of which will be mobile apps and 1 client project. This video is packed with my personal tips and tricks for vibe coding. And for anyone who faces problems with moving past the basic prototype of an app, I will walk you through every step of building extremely useful and advanced applications with vibe coding. There are no prerequisites to this course other than your willingness to learn this new skill. We're going to be using Replit, Cursor, and Lovable, and you can get started with all of these tools completely for free. If you're an entrepreneur, engineer, or anyone who wants to master the skill of vibe coding from the fundamentals with every little detail covered all the way to the end, then this video is for you. My name is Naman. I've built production-grade applications with vibe coding for clients around the world, and I'm ready to show you the magic of vibe coding. So I hope you stick around and learn this beautiful and powerful new skill.
Alright, so let's get started by understanding the tools that we're going to be working with. We're going to be using Replit, Lovable, and Cursor. And the way these tools work are Replit and Lovable. All you have to do is head over to replit.com and lovable.dev, and you can start building online. But for Cursor, you have to download Cursor onto your computer. And I'm going to walk you through this when we start building with Cursor. But for now, let's start building with Lovable. We're going to be building our first app. I'll walk you through some basic concepts about vibe coding, and then we'll move on to some more complex and advanced concepts to make you a better vibe coder. Alright, so for our first app, let's type in a prompt. Now, there are a lot of different ways that you can go about writing a prompt, and we're going to study that in detail in our prompt engineering section. But for now, let's just write a prompt in completely natural language that also works very effectively. So the app that we're going to be building is an app where I type in the stock symbol of a company, and the app gives me a lot of financial information and the stock price and all sorts of things like that about the company. So it's a pretty simple concept, but it's a really nice app, and that's what we're going to build. So let's describe a prompt in completely natural language. So I'm going to say, can you build an app for me that gives me the stock price and related financial information about a company when I enter a stock symbol. All right, so this is the app that we want to build, and I'm also going to add some other details. I'm going to say that I don't want to use any API key. So a lot of times when vibe coding, sometimes the vibe coding tool will ask you to enter in an API key, and I don't want that. I want it to build the entire thing independent. So what I'm going to say is I don't want to have to give you anything external like an API key. All right, so that's one thing. And we're also going to say, and I don't want you to use mock data. Make the data accurate. So sometimes when vibe coding, you can realize that the application has been built, but the data is mock. But we want this to be an actual working functional application. So now I'm going to hit enter, and Lovable is going to start thinking and then building my app for me. So you can see that it opened up a chat window over here, and this is where it's going to present our application. So as you can see, it is thinking over here. It has already named our app, Stockwatcher. And now it's going to give us a response on what it's going to build, and then it's going to start building it. So let's wait for the response. All right, so as you can see, it's saying, I'll build a sleek stock lookup app with real-time data using Yahoo Finance's public API. No key needed. And then it's going to tell us all of the features that it has, the design inspiration and design. And you can see that it's actually really smart. It's taking design inspiration from Bloomberg Terminal meets Robinhood. Dark professional with green-red price indicators. So you can see it's actually really smart. Green-red price indicators are something that you see in trading all the time. And since our app is around the stock market, that actually makes a lot of sense. So we're just going to enable this. We don't have to do anything. And let's wait for it to build. So it basically asked me to enable Lovable Cloud for it to do some other things like add an LLM to our app, build in backends. So I just enabled that. And that's one feature of vibe coding that's really nice. Even if you need to do something, it's just going to ask you for permission, and you just have to click a button and it goes forward. And it's similar for debugging. All you have to do is tell it to fix the bug, and it fixes the bug like that. We're going to get into all of this later on, But for now, let's just wait for it to think and build our app. I'm just going to claim these credits right now. Claim credits. So I'm using the free version of Lovable for now, but what you can do later on is purchase the paid version. But for now, let's just wait for it to build the app. I'm also going to show you the paid version later on in this course, so you don't have to worry about that. But for now, I want to make this accessible to everyone. So let's wait for Lovable to build our app, and then we're going to test our app out and move forward from there. Okay, so Lovable has built our app. It's been a couple of minutes, and as you can see, it has edited all of these different code files, and now it's saying, I've built your stock lookup app with a sleek, dark financial theme. It fetches real data from Yahoo Finance via a backend function, no API key needed. And it's telling us all of the features, and then it's telling us to search for stock symbols like Apple, Google, Microsoft, or Tesla. So let's put in something like TSLA for Tesla and hit search. And let's see what we get. Let's just wait for it. All right, so this is $435.80. Now we can verify that. I can say Tesla stock, and it is $435.80. So this is accurate. So Lovable has built an app for us that is actually functional, it is working, and it's giving us the accurate stock price. So if I want to search the stock price of Microsoft, so MSFT is the stock symbol for Microsoft, and I hit enter, then we get $478.11. So instead of Tesla, if I search Microsoft stock, then we get $478.11. So this data is real time, this data is accurate, and that's exactly what we wanted. And so what you can see is we've built a functional app in a couple of minutes with the power of AI. And this is the basics of vibe coding. What we're going to learn in this course is how to iterate on this app. So for example, if there's something that I don't like, maybe I don't like the color scheme, right? I don't like the color green. I could say, turn the color scheme into red and black, and it would do that for me. So that's what iteration is. So if I say, make the color scheme red and black, and I hit enter, it's now going to change the color scheme to red and black. And we're going to get into a lot of details in this later on. I just want to give you guys a basic idea of what iteration looks like. But iteration is the way to go for vibe coding. That's how you reach the perfect state of your application, a state where you're really satisfied with what you've built. So it's saying, I'll update the color scheme to red and black. Let me check the current CSS first. So you can see the clarity in its thinking. Now you can see it's going into index.css and it's editing that. So it's very clear, it's very transparent, and that's what vibe coding is in essence. So now what we're going to do is, once this is done, we're going to head into the details and how do we actually build great applications. This is great, and now you can see we have a red and black color scheme. All right, so now we're going to build our second application, and we're going to be using Replit. So what exactly are we going to build? We're going to be building something that is very similar to a map software, a local landmarks app that allows us to view the landmarks of any particular area. So I already have a prompt ready here, and it says, make an app that displays a map of local landmarks based on the current viewable area of the map. Use Wikipedia to get the landmarks. And this is one of Replit's recommended applications to try out Replit. So that's why we're going to be using this, and I'll cover some vibe coding concepts as we build. So the first thing is we can specify what we want the AI agent to use to get the data. So here I've said use Wikipedia to get the landmarks. If you recall, in our previous application, we did not mention where we want the data to be from. But Lovable used Yahoo Finance to get the data. So these applications, when they're built, they source their data from somewhere. So you can either leave that to the AI, or you can specify it like we've done over here. So I'm going to hit enter, and Replit is going to start building this application for me. So let's wait for it to open a new window. As you can see, it has already named our app Landmark Explorer. And I'm using the free version of Replit right now, but later on in the course, we're also going to be using the paid version to build. So let's wait for Replit to give us a response. So as you can see, it was configuring the programming environment and how it's working, and it's a very step-by-step process. So they're going to tell you everything that they're doing. Replit is always going to show you what's happening, and it's a very transparent process. So now it's exploring the landmark extraction, and now it's saying, I'll build a map-based application that identifies landmarks in your current view using Wikipedia's geolocation data. Users will be able to explore their surroundings and learn about nearby points of interest directly from the map. Then it's telling you what the next step is. So it's saying, first, I'll research the best way to retrieve this location-based data from Wikipedia. So you can see the thinking process of the AI. It's telling you what it's thinking, and then it's going to show you what it's doing, which files it's working on, what code it's writing. All of that is completely transparent. So this is one of the things about vibe coding. It's your job to track what the AI is doing and look at the logic that it's applying so that you have an underlying understanding of what's going on. So now you can see it's mapping out the implementation steps, and you can click over here to see the past action. So it did these two things before this. So you can see it's editing all of these different files. If I click right over here, you can see what it's doing. So it's edited this file, created this file, formulating the API interactions, searching the web. Every single step is completely transparent. Whatever the AI agent is doing, you can see all of it. It's creating a database, creating index.css, servers, storage, routes, everything. So that's what I love about vibe coding. It's completely transparent. And this is something that Replit is really good for. You can track every step. And this is a great way to learn the logic behind building the application, because you can see what the AI is doing as it's doing it. All right, so it has been a few minutes and Replit has now built the application for us. So let's see what it's saying. It's saying the application is ready. I've built a map-based explorer that locates you, uses your browser's geolocation to center the map on your current position, fetches landmarks, connects to Wikipedia's GeoSearch API, proxied through our backend to find interesting places nearby, dynamic updates. So if I drag the map, it automatically searches the new area for landmarks. We're going to test all of this in just a minute. Interactive markers, so displays landmarks on the map. Clicking one shows a summary, thumbnail, and a link to the full Wikipedia article. So you can see we have that right over here. I've clicked on this landmark and it's showing me all of that. And then favorite, so I can favorite, if I do this, I can favorite it and save it over here. So let's see if this application is working. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this button right over here. And this basically allows us to open our application into a new tab where we can test it out in a much better way. So now we have our application over here. So it's showing me my location. I've turned off my location. I'm not based in London, but this is a demo. So if my location was on, it would be showing me my active location. And what you can see is all of the landmarks over here. So these are all landmarks. These are real landmarks in London. So London Bridge Station, Southwark Cathedral, I don't know how to pronounce all of these things, but we have a bunch of landmarks. These are real landmarks in London with relevant images, with links to Wikipedia, and we can locate them on the map. So I can drag on the map, and it's going to update those landmarks based on where I've dragged to. So this is a really interesting piece of software that Replit has built for us. It's functional, it's working, and it's great. So now we have Sloane Street and Belgrave Square and new landmarks based on where I drag. So I can drag, I can zoom out. So if I want to head over to a different country, let's say I want to go over to Portugal. Let's locate Portugal. All right, so if I head over to Portugal, right over here, and I want to find something in Portugal, I can scroll inwards, and now we can see the landmarks in Portugal. So let's wait for it to load, and we can see some really great landmarks in Portugal. So this is the application that Replit has built for us in just a couple of minutes. So now you can see we have landmarks in Portugal. So that's what Replit is all about. It built our application in just a few minutes, a functional working application. So to summarize what we've done here, we told Replit we wanted to build something like a map software for local landmarks. Let's look at our prompt. All right, so our prompt was very simple. It was just 2 lines. Make an app that displays a map of local landmarks based on the current viewable area of the map. Use Wikipedia to get the landmarks. And it's built exactly that for us, a perfectly working application. And we have access to all of the code. So if I click on any of these open files buttons, which we're going to do later on in the course, I can see all of these different files. I can see every change that it's made. I can see the database. We can go through everything that Replit has done to build our application. And then Replit gives us a summary of what it's built. And then we have the ability to test out if this is accurate and if it's working. And if it's not, then we can make changes by telling that to the AI agent, which we're going to do later on in the course. But this gives you a basic idea of how to build an application with the Replit AI agent. Alright, so now that we've built some applications with AI and vibe coding, I'm going to slow down so that you really understand the fundamentals of what I'm about to teach. We're going to go very deep into some concepts like spec-driven development, iteration, and plan and ask mode. So a brief overview of what these things are. Spec-driven development is basically specifying everything that we want to build to the AI, to the point where the AI knows exactly what it needs to do. So what we've been doing until now is kind of leaving it to the AI to vibe code and build our application. Spec-driven development gives the AI everything it needs to know from our side. So we usually do it in the form of a document or a PRD, a product requirements document, and we give that document to the AI and say, well, this document contains everything that I want in my app very clearly. Use this document and all of its content to build out the application. And it results in much better applications, and we're going to see that in Cursor. Then we're also going to study iteration. So I gave you a brief overview of what that is, but now we're going to go really deep into how to iterate to achieve an ideal state of your application. Then I'm going to show you plan and ask mode, which is basically when you have questions about your app that you want to ask the AI, anything, you can ask the AI in all three, Replit, Lovable, and Cursor. And I'm going to show you how that works. And then we're going to study prompt engineering, which means how do we write the best prompts for vibe coding? What are some of the best practices to keep in mind when you're writing your prompts? I'm going to teach you all of these concepts in Cursor, but they apply to any vibe coding tool. To get started with Cursor for free, you want to head over to cursor.com/home, and on this link you can click on the download button and download Cursor for your computer. I'm on a Mac, so it's saying download for macOS, but you can install it for Windows or Linux. You can get started for free, and I'm using the Pro plan for this tutorial, but you can follow along and get started with the free plan. Okay, so now once you have Cursor installed, you're going to see an interface that looks like this. And I love this interface because it allows us to do some really cool things with AI. Now, if you guys want, I can release a full course on Cursor as well. Let me know in the comments and I'd be happy to do that. All right, so what exactly do we have here? Well, the first thing is a model selector. So I can choose a lot of different AI coding models. So for example, Opus 4.5, Opus 4.5 Thinking, Claude Sonnet 4.5, GPT 5.2 Codex, GPT 5.2, Gemini 3 Flash. So this is by Google, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Cursor's own model. So you can choose different models, you can add more models, and for this tutorial, we're going to be using Composer 1, which is Cursor's own model, but feel free to use any model that's available to you. All right, so I'm going to use Composer 1, and what we're going to do is the same thing that we've been doing until now, but this time we're going to write a very detailed prompt. In fact, we're going to give it an entire document. So this is the same thing as the prompt box in Replit or Lovable. You just describe what you want to build, and Cursor starts building it for you using your AI model. So let's now come up with a document that we can give to Cursor for building our application, and let's understand what we want to build. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to build a startup valuation predictor, and we're going to generate a requirements document that we're going to then put into Cursor, and then Cursor is going to build that app for us based on that document. So what exactly are we building? We're building an app that will take in a variety of different details about your company, like your industry, your growth indicators, your performance, your team, and other metrics, and will give you an estimated valuation for the company based on those details. Again, it's a simple app, but it's a very nice concept and a very useful concept that could provide value to a lot of companies. So how are we going to generate this product requirements document? Well, there's two ways you could go about this. The first is writing it by yourself, and that is great if you have a clear picture of what you want to build. Then take the time, take a couple of minutes, maybe around an hour, and write down everything that you want in your application. Now that is not really effective in terms of time, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use AI to generate the PRD, and then I'm going to review it by myself and make sure that it's exactly what I want. I think that's more efficient. You can choose whichever way you want to go with. So now I'm going to say to ChatGPT, I am building an app with an AI tool that builds the app for me. I need to give the tool a PRD for the app that I want to build. I want to build, and then I'm going to copy this right over here, and I'm going to paste it over here. All right, I want to build a startup valuation predictor, and then I've described the app. And so I'm going to say, please give me a PRD for this app. I want a black and red color scheme, and it's named Mnemonics Startup Win. All right, a completely random name. You can name it whatever you want. This is just some details that I'm adding to include in the document. All right, and I'm going to hit enter, and now ChatGPT is going to give me this PRD. So you can see that it's generating a product requirements document, product name, Mnemonic Startup Win, product summary, and then it's the problem statement. So essentially what spec-driven development is we're making it very clear to the AI, which is in this case Cursor, what we want to build. So there is no doubt left to the AI. It knows every single detail that it needs to know so that it can build our app to the best of its ability. So it even knows the target users. Who is this app for? Who do we want to use this app? Who is going to be using this app? So early stage startup founders, pre-seed to Series A funding, solo founders, and small teams. And that's exactly what we want. So this is why using AI to generate your PRD can be very helpful. You can see it's exactly what I wanted. So you can see what it's not supposed to build as well. So the AI knows exactly what not to do. It's not supposed to do any of these things. And so this is what spec-driven development essentially is. It's specifying everything to the point where the AI knows everything that it needs to do. So the naming, the branding, it's telling it how to design, it's telling it everything that it needs to know. So now the AI doesn't have to think by itself on exactly what to do. We've given it everything that we want. And this will result in a much better application, which is something you're about to see. Okay, so what I've done is I've reviewed this document and I think it's good to go. There's no changes that I want to make. It perfectly describes what I want to build. So once you have a document that describes everything that you want to build with a lot of detail, you can download that document. So I'm going to download right over here, download this as a PDF, and I'm going to wait for it to download. So all right, now we have this downloaded, as you can see over here, as a PDF. This is for a 5-page PDF. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to Cursor and I'm going to paste this entire PDF into Cursor. And then Cursor is going to build our app for me based out of this PDF. And I've added the PDF over here now. And now what we're going to say is build me this application based on the attached document. Please make it exactly as specified in the attached PRD. All right, and I'm going to hit enter, and the AI is now going to build this application for me based on the document. So now you can see it's reviewing the workspace, then building the app as per the PRD. And you can see that it has started coding. So you can see these JSON files that it's coding in, and it instantly started coding as soon as we gave it the prompt. Now it's going into HTML and CSS. It's writing all of this code. The speed is really, really impressive. You can see 58 lines of code, 40 lines of code, and these are just a couple of seconds, 99 lines of code. In just a couple of seconds, it's writing so much code, and this is very efficient. This is why I love Cursor and Composer 1. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to wait for it to build our application. We don't have to do anything. It's building everything for us, and we can see every single code file that it's using. Later on, we're going to review all of this as well, but you can see it's going for team form, market form, financial form, and form styles. Then it's styling the forms, planning the next moves. Now it's writing the logic for how to calculate the valuation, the mathematics and the algorithms behind how to calculate the valuation of the startup. That's what it's writing right now in valuation.ts. So you can see the speed. We can review this file later on, but I can already see what it's doing. So it's writing a bunch of if statements. And so now in just a couple of minutes, it's saying built the Mnemonics startup win application as per the PRD. And here's the summary. So it's telling us all of the completed features. So the project structure, the user flow, the form modules, all 5 steps, the valuation logic, so stage-based weighting, idea, pre-revenue, revenue growth, penalizes lack of traction appropriately, rewards growth over raw revenue in early stages, caps irrational outputs, factor contribution breakdown, results dashboard, design system exactly like we asked in the document. So you can see it actually studied and analyzed the document that we gave it, and on the basis of that document, it's generated exactly what we want. And this is why spec-driven development is so beneficial. Instead of just building a random application, it's built it exactly as per our needs, tailored to our needs. The app is exactly what we wanted, exactly what we mentioned in the document. So this is the benefit of spec-driven development and why you should try spec-driven development when you're building a really complex application. Because now we have exactly what we wanted. We even mentioned this in the document. So now we can run this application, we can see all the key features, and if you want to review the code, you can go into every single code file and see all of the code. So there's 25 different files here, JSON files, HTML files, CSS files, TypeScript files. So you can go into all of the code and you can study those files as well. So for now, what we're going to do is we're going to run this app and we're going to see how it's working. So I'm going to say, run the app for me, please. And I'm going to hit enter. And we're going to let Cursor run the app for us. All right, so now you can see it is saying the app is running. The development server is running at localhost 5173. So you can open that URL in your browser to use the application. Now I have the application opened up within Cursor, but you can test it out in your browser as well. So now let me just expand on this to get a better view. And now we can test our application out. So it says Mnemonics Startup Win. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Start Valuation. All right, and this is a red and black color scheme just like we asked for, and now it's giving us an important disclaimer. So if you guys remember something, we mentioned something in our document right over here, Mandatory disclaimer. This tool provides an estimated valuation for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal, or investment advice. And you can see it uses that line right over here, and it actually implemented this disclaimer. And this is what separates good vibe coders from basic vibe coders. So the document was for this very purpose, so that we can build a very thorough and detailed application tailored to our needs. So if I want a disclaimer, if I want these tiny little things in my application, everything to be as per my needs, that's why the document is beneficial. I mentioned all of that in the document, and the app has been built exactly based on that document. So now I can click on this and continue. This is a pretty decent UI. And now we have to enter in some information, and it is this information that is going to determine the valuation of our startup. So I'm going to try and enter in all of these details as quickly as possible. So my company name is Mnemonix, my country is India, my industry is technology, my business model is B2B, startup stage is idea, continue, monthly revenue, let's say something like $1,000. These are all hypothetical numbers. Revenue growth rate 47%. Number of users or customers. Let's go with 8,000 since we just crossed 8,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel. If you're liking this course, I deeply appreciate it if you could subscribe. It really, really helps me out a lot. So for growth type, let's go with month over month. Random numbers just to get the valuation for now. We're just going to test if our application is working, if the logic is working. Estimated market size, let's go with 100. Industry growth rate, low. Competitive intensity, high. Continue. Number of founders, 1. Background is mixed, both business and technical. Let's say we have a prior exit. Continue. Burn rate, let's say $50 per month. Runway for 12 months. Monetization clarity is clear. And regulatory risk is low. Right, and I click on calculate valuation, and now it gives us a valuation. So it gives us a low version, a base version, and a high version. It's going to give us a lot of other details as well, like the factor contribution breakdown. So which factors contribute to the valuation? What are the strengths of my company? This is something that's tailored to my company. So based on the information that I've entered, it's giving me the strengths. It's giving my weakness and my risks. Solo founder may face execution challenges. So the number of founders we entered was 1. Recommendation, not ready to raise. Focus on validating the idea, building a minimal viable product, and gaining initial traction before seeking investment. As a startup founder, this is a pretty decent recommendation, a very basic valuation that I've got in just a couple of minutes. So this is the application. Now this is very basic, and what we're going to do is we're going to iterate on this to make this a much more advanced and a much better application. Alright, so now you've understood spec-driven development. You can upload a document to your AI tool. The AI will build an application for you exactly based on what you want. But even then, the AI is not going to achieve a perfect ideal state that you envisioned. That requires iteration. What iteration basically means is suggesting changes to the AI and telling the AI what to change again and again and again, and you keep iterating until it's exactly what you want. So for example, if I go down here and I say back new valuation. Now I don't like this UI. I feel like it's our color scheme, but it looks very basic. It doesn't look very advanced, and it's not a great design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the UI on the home screen looks very basic. Make it very advanced. Use advanced design styles, gradients, and make it look super good. All right, so this is a prompt in completely natural language. There's no professional words here, but it's iterating. I'm telling it what I don't like, and I'm telling it what I want to change. And now I'm going to hit enter, and then the AI is going to make that change and improve the application each and every single time. And we keep on improving it until we achieve exactly what we want. And that is how you build great things with vibe coding. So now you can see it's going back into the CSS, and it's making changes into the design. So it's adding 65 lines of code and removing 13 lines of code for this file. And now we're going to see what it does for this file. And it's going to edit the code. And you can see the speed is incredible, 351 lines of code. And we can already see, wow, this design looks much better. You can see there are gradients, and this is much better. So this is what iteration is, and that is the power of iteration. In just a couple of minutes, it has already improved the UI so much. This is really, really nice. Wow, this is great. So this is amazing, and this is actually what I wanted. So that is why iteration is helpful. So now let's see what it's saying. It's saying that it's already done. redesigned the landing screen with advanced styling, and then it's also telling us all of the updates. So that is what iteration is. Now we can iterate on this even more, but for me, this is actually really great. So valuation intelligence. Predict a reasonable valuation range for your startup using structured company inputs. You can already see the difference on how much better this application looks. So this single iteration has already made our application so much better, but we can do a lot of more cool things. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this full screen, and now we have a better view of our application. So this looks great. And when I click on Start Valuation, it takes us to this disclaimer. And then after this, again, it's a very basic UI. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a screenshot of this, and then I'm going to use that screenshot as context in my next prompt. And you can do this in Replit and Lovable and any vibe coding tool as well. So you take a screenshot of the current stage of the application, and you paste it into your next prompt. So in Cursor, you can do that very easily by just clicking Take Screenshot. And what happens is the screenshot goes directly into the context. So you can see I have the screenshot here. And now I'm going to say, the UI for the home screen is now fine, but look at the UI on the attached screenshot. These are very basic. Make the design for the details screen very advanced and good looking as well. All right, so you can see I'm prompting completely based off of the top of my head. Whatever I'm thinking, I'm writing, and I'm prompting. And the AI is taking that in, and it's building a much better application with each iteration. So I hit enter, and now it's going to take the context of the screenshot, and on the basis of my prompt, it's going to improve this screen as well. So let's wait for Cursor to do that. So it's enhancing the form UI with advanced styling, animations, and modern design elements. So let's wait for it to do that. You can see the coding speed is just amazing. It's really, really nice. I know I keep repeating this, but it is truly amazing. And wow, the design is already much better. So this is amazing. We now have a much better design over here. And let's just wait for Cursor to finish. Wow, this looks great. This is honestly very nice, and it's much better than what we had earlier. So you can see that's what iteration really does. It allows you to improve not just the UI, but the functionality as well, which is what you're going to see after this. So this is what you have to do in order to build an ideal state for your application. Iteration is not just for UI and design, it's also for new features. So now if I want to add a very simple feature, like a drop-down menu for a country, right now I have to type in the country, but I want a drop-down menu, I can mention that to the AI as well. So I'm going to say, for entering the country, there should be a drop-down. Please add it. And I hit enter, and now Cursor is going to implement this feature into the application for me. And so I don't have to do anything. I don't have to think about the logic. I don't have to understand how this is working, essentially because Cursor is doing that for me. And now we have that over here. We're going to test it out. Let's just wait for it to be done, and then we can test it out. So now if I click on this, now I can select a country, and it's built. Now let's understand how plan mode and ask mode work across these different vibe coding tools, and how we can use them to plan activities and tasks to build even greater things. So let's say I have a question about my app in its current state. I want to know how it works. I want to know something about the app. So where do I go? What do I do? Let's say I'm not a professional developer, so I look at the code, but I won't understand any of the code here. So what I can do is I can ask the AI questions about the code and about the app. Anything, whatever you want to ask, whatever you want to know, you can ask the AI. And you can do that by switching to ask mode right over here. So ask Cursor questions about your code base. And you can do this in Lovable and Replit as well. In Lovable, I think it's called a chat mode, and in Replit, it's called a plan mode. We're going to be going over those in those vibe coding tools later on in this course as well, but I'm just letting you guys know. So if I want to ask any question, I can do that in ask mode. So now what we're going to do is we're going to ask Cursor to explain how this app has been built to us and how it actually recommends and how it gives the valuation, just to understand. So let's ask Cursor about that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to ask it to explain the logic behind its recommendation engine and valuation engine. So I'm going to say, explain how the app gives the recommendation, the logic behind it, and how it calculates the valuation of the startup. All right, so this is in ask mode, and I'm asking a question about the app. So I'm going to hit enter, and we're going to let Cursor and the AI give us a response explaining this logic, explaining the recommendation engine to us. And later on, we're actually going to build a much better AI-powered version right after this. So let's see what it says. So now let's look at the response that Cursor AI has given us. So it's saying reviewing the valuation logic to explain how it works. So it actually went into the code file, it reviewed the logic, and then it's going to explain it to us. So it's giving us an overview, it's telling us the calculation process, how it calculates the valuation, and it's giving us the math and the algorithms behind it. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but it explains all of it based on the code. And then it explains the valuation ranges, how it calculates everything. And then the recommendation logic is something that I want to focus on. Because what I noticed was the recommendations are hard-coded, which means that they are predefined. So there's never going to be a unique recommendation. They're all going to be predefined. And I don't like that. I want AI-powered recommendation that's actually tailored to the user and to the startup. So that's what we're going to build now. So now I want to implement an AI-powered recommendation engine into this app. So it's going to use AI to give us actual recommendations tailored to whatever startup details I've entered. Now, I don't know how to build this. I don't know the logic behind it. I don't know how to use an API key. I don't know any of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to plan mode, where I can create detailed plans for accomplishing tasks. Or I should say the AI can create the plan for accomplishing the task. So now what we're going to do is we're going to tell the AI what we want to build. The AI is going to give us a plan, and then it's going to implement the plan for us. So let's describe what we want to build now. We want an AI-powered recommendation engine. So I'm going to say, right now, the recommendations are hard-coded. I don't want that. I want them to be AI-powered. I can give you an open router. I'm going to explain what this is. API key for the AI functionality. Or you can do it yourself without me having to give you anything. Both work for me. All right, so again, this is custom prompting. You want to prompt in a way that is comfortable to you when you're iterating. You don't have to worry too much about what the AI is going to interpret. It's pretty good at that. So both work for me. All right, so I'm saying right now the recommendations are hard-coded. I don't want that. I want them to be AI-powered. I can give you an open router API key, which basically will enable AI functionality. So you can give an OpenAI API key, Anthropic API key, and I'm going to be using open router and for the AI functionality. Or you can do it yourself without me having to give you anything. Both work for me, but I need the recommendations to be custom AI generated accurate recommendations based on the info that the user has entered. All right, just a couple of spelling mistakes. So user and based on. All right, and I'm going to hit enter, and we're going to let the AI plan this out for us. So it's planning the next moves, and let's see what it says. And so when I've typed this in, it's saying clarifying a few details before finalizing the plan. And now it's asking me questions. So you can see that this is a collaboration between the AI and me, right? We're working together to achieve one goal, which is the best state of this application. So now it's asking me, you mentioned two options, provide an open router API key or do it yourself without me having to give you anything. Now it's asking me for the second option, what did I have in mind? Because most AI services require API keys. So it's basically calling me out on that, and it's saying that that doesn't really make any sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say use open router with a API key. That's what we're going to go with. So I'm going to click on this, and now the second question is asking me, if using open router, which model would you prefer? And I don't really know which one I want to use. I'm okay with all of them. So I'm going to say, let me choose a good default and click continue. Now it's going to go ahead and it's creating the plan for an AI powered recommendation using open router. So now you can see it has created a .md file, and now it's planning all of that out over here. So let's wait for it to write the entire plan. And then on the basis of that plan, it's actually going to build. So we'll have the option to build it right here. But let's wait for it to generate the full plan for us. So the architecture changes. You can see the step-by-step thinking process. Then it's saying the update valuation calculation flow. And we're going to wait for it to write the entire plan. So it's even telling us which files it's going to modify the code in. It's a very step-by-step logical thinking process. There's a lot of deep analysis behind this, and it's actually going to work because it's so well thought of. So now it's going to go inside all of these different files. You can see .env new file, these files, and what it needs to do in each file is also clarified. So it's locating which file needs to work on, which file it needs to work on, and what work it needs to do in that file in order to implement this plan. And it's writing all of this in a file, plan.md, AI-powered recommendation with OpenRouter plan.md, and it's going to implement the plan based on this document. So you can see that later on, if I want to check out the plan, if I want to see what it planned, I can actually go back here and I can see. It's even talking about error handling, performance considerations, and then it's listing all of the files to modify. And you can see its note-taking ability on the right in parentheses is also very accurate and very efficient. So this is all really magical to me. Seeing the AI write things like this and being able to think like this is truly magical. So let's wait for it to finish the plan, and then we're going to click on build, and it's going to build out the plan for us. All right. So now if I click on build plan, you can see it's going to start building out this plan for me. So I'm going to click build, and now it's going to start building this AI recommendation engine for us. So as you can see, it has started coding in this file airecommendation.ts, and now we're going to wait for it to do its thing and build the entire thing for us. So you can see as a vibe coder, it's very convenient for you. You don't have to do too many things. You just have to point the AI in the right direction, tell it what you want to build, and then monitor it while it's building. And you also get to learn a lot of things. For example, you can look at the plan in detail and understand the thought process behind the AI building out this implementation. So that's a great way to learn how to build just by studying what the AI has thought and how the AI goes about building this. So you can see the architecture changes. Replace the hard-coded generate recommendation function with an AI-powered service that calls OpenRouter API to generate personalized recommendations based on the startup's data and calculated valuation. And it's doing everything it said it would in the plan. So .env files, updating this file, everything that it mentioned in the plan, that's what it's doing right now. And now it's looking for the API key setup instruction. So it's probably going to prompt us to enter in an API key. Once it asks us for an API key, we'll set that up as well. So let's just wait for it to keep on moving forward. And it's also creating different README files as well. So these are files that we can read later on to understand what it's doing at each particular location. So now let's see what it says our next steps are. To enable AI recommendations, create a .env file in the root directory with this, and then enter in your OpenRouter API key over here. So it's saying get your API key over here. The implementation is complete and ready to use. So now let's head over to OpenRouter and generate an API key that we can use for our AI recommendation engine. So you can see it's saying get your API key from OpenRouter. So I'm going to open Chrome. All right, Chrome. And in Chrome, I'm going to head over to OpenRouter, where I'll be able to get my OpenRouter. All right, over here. And I want to get an API key. So if you're following along with me, you can do this as well. OpenRouter is a great place to get your API keys. I've noticed it works pretty well. So I'm going to sign into my OpenRouter account, and then I'm going to get an API key. So after creating my account, I can now click on Create API Key, and I'll enter in my name. So I'm going to say NX Startup Win, which is the name of the app that we're building. And a credit limit, I'm going to leave blank for now, and no expiration. I'm going to click on Create. And when I do, I'm not going to show my API key here, but I am going to enter it into Cursor after this. So now I have my API key with me that's going to be used for the AI recommendation engine. And since API keys are private, I'm not going to show it in the video. But what I am going to do is I'm going to tell Cursor to use my API key to finish the implementation. So I'm going to say, here's my API key. Please do what needs to be done. All right, and I'm going to put a dash here, and I'm going to enter in my API key and hit enter. Then I'll show you what happens after that. So after I created my API key and I gave it to Cursor, Cursor now implemented that into the application, and it's saying the AI-powered recommendations are set up and ready to use. So I'm going to head back to our application. I'm going to hit refresh just one more time. And now let's try it out and see if AI actually powers the answers that the app gives us. So I'm going to head down here, start valuation, accept the disclaimer, and let's speed run this again. So I'm going to put in AWN and country, let's say United States, and industry finance. And let's go ahead, continue. Revenue growth rate, 30%, monthly revenue, $3,000. Number of users or customers, let's go with 300. Select growth type is year over year. Growth rate is 200%. Retention rate is 200%. I'm just going to go through these very, very quickly. 100 USD, or let's go with 1,000. 1,000 USD. Industry growth rate is low. Competitive intensity is medium. Continue. And let's go ahead. And burn rate, let's say $1,000. Runway, 11 months. Monetization clarity, partial. And risk level, let's go with medium. And now if I click on calculate valuation, the recommendation should be powered by AI. So if I go down here, now you can see the recommendation is actually customized based on what I entered. So let's read it. With a solid monthly revenue, strong growth rate, and high retention rate, AWN is showing promising early traction. So you can already see it is customized to the information that I entered. It's using the name that I entered. So however, given the idea stage, so I said it was in the idea stage, it's now saying consider further validating the business model and expanding the user base before seeking funding. And so you can see that this is now customized, and that is what we want, and that is what makes this application actually useful. So instead of just being a basic hard-coded prototype, this is now an actual AI-powered recommendation engine that can give us real answers based on the information that we put in the application. So now we have a decently good-looking application that gives us a pretty decent valuation. It justifies the valuation, and it uses an AI recommendation engine to give us that valuation. So that's the app that we've built with Cursor. Now let's study prompt engineering. I'm here in Replit, and we're going to be building a mobile app, which is one of our main projects for this course. But before we do that, I'm going to write a very good and a very detailed prompt. And while doing that, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about writing efficient and effective prompts for vibe coding. So how do we start? Well, let's assume that the AI is a very skilled developer who has just joined our software engineering team. So they know the skills, they know the languages, but they have no idea what our product is, what our app is, or what we want. So taking that into consideration, we need to describe every little thing for the best possible prompt. That's why Spec-Driven development, where we gave it a PRD, was super helpful. So the app that we're going to be building is a mobile app for a company that sells watches. So the users will be able to browse the watches, they'll be able to view them, they'll be able to interact with whatever the company has set up. And it's basically going to be a mobile app for our client, which is a company that sells watches and wants a mobile app that customers can access. So we're going to go with a red and black color scheme, and we're going to allow users to be able to browse these watches through this mobile app. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch from web app to mobile app. And this is great with Replit. You can pick the type of app that you want to build. This is amazing. I'm using the paid version of Replit for building this mobile app. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to describe our idea in detail. Now, how do we do that? Well, it's a very straightforward thing, but it's very, very specific. So you want to give the AI as many details as you can. So let's get started. So I'm going to say, I want to build a mobile app for a watch selling company. All right. Now this is one detail. We're going to give it many details about what we want to build. Everything, as many details as we can. So I want it to have a red, white, and black, or let's go with red and white. I think red and white would look better than red and black. For a mobile app, I think white is better. So I want it to have a red and white color scheme. All right. I also don't want the app to use any third-party images. So I'm going to say use all original images generated by your AI. Don't use any copyright images. All right. Now, what else can I say? I want multiple screens that users can navigate to browse watches that the company offers. Again, so I'm laying out the picture that I have in my mind to the AI. You cannot assume that the AI will be able to infer everything. That's one way to go about it, but it's not the most efficient way, and it doesn't lead to successful applications. So you want to give it as much information as you can, and you will notice that this leads to a much better output. And by better, I mean it's much closer to what you have envisioned in your mind when you're thinking about the app. I'm also going to say, I want the design to be modern, sleek, and professional. Make it super good looking. So just subtle things. These are things that I've developed on my own. Something that I like to do is always tell it to make it super good looking or attractive. Now, I don't know how much that actually has an impact on the app, but again, these are things that I like to do. And eventually, as you build more and more applications and spend more time with these AI tools, you'll develop a way that you're very comfortable with when it comes to prompting, and you'll be able to learn just by trying out different prompts what works best in your use cases. So technically, the best way to learn prompting for vibe coding is just to prompt as much as you can and then analyze the outputs. And on the basis of that analysis and on the basis of those feedback loops, you iterate and you improve your prompts. So you realize, well, this prompt got me a worse output, but this prompt got me a better output. So next time I'm going to focus on prompts like these. And you keep iterating again and again on your prompts until you get a much better prompt. It's all about iteration, even for vibe coding and even for prompting. You figure out what works and what doesn't work, you try and fix it, and you keep going forward. That's all it is. So I think this is a pretty decent prompt for now. So I'm going to hit enter. And now we're going to let Replit start building our mobile app. All right, so it's named our app Timepiece, so time for watches and piece. And now Replit is going to start building our mobile app. So I'll also keep on explaining how to write great prompts as this course progresses. We're going to build a lot of projects now. So each and every single prompt, I'll give you more tips on how to write good prompts. But let's get started with our project now for building mobile apps with Replit. So this is an app that you can actually access on your phone, and I'm going to show you how. I'm going to open this app on my phone, and we're going to test it out on my phone in just a few minutes. So let's wait for Replit to finish generating the design guidelines and setting everything up. And then it's going to show us a preview right over here of the mobile app on a phone, and we can test it out on many different phones. So Android, iOS, all of that, and it's going to be pretty fun. So let's wait for Replit to build our mobile app. You can see that it's now configuring the programming environment, installed Expo Go. So Replit, as far as I remember, used Expo Go to build these apps. I'm not sure if that's updated, but let's see what it's saying. I'll build this luxury watch selling mobile app with a stunning red and white design. Let me start by installing fonts and generating all the visual assets. So you can see that Replit is generating the visual assets on its own, like I mentioned in the prompt. If I didn't do that, then Replit might have gone to some third-party website and picked up images, which is something that I don't want. So you can see it's generating these 10 different images: watch icon, splash icon, hero sport, all of these icons. So now we have original images that Replit has generated that it's going to use in our application. So now it's saying, now let me generate the vintage collection thumbnail and copy assets to the proper locations. So again, the step-by-step thinking. And a lot of people are worried about AI taking developers' jobs. And the reason I don't think that's going to happen is because we're the ones who are guiding the AI. The AI inherently does not know what it needs to do. It only does what it does when we guide it, when we prompt it, when we instruct it to follow a certain direction. And so that's what's great about this. It gives you the logic, but allows you to maintain control. So it's explaining every single step that Replit is going through. Now it's executing this, then it's editing client constants theme.ts. So let's wait for Replit to finish building our mobile app. And then we're going to iterate on the mobile app. And so I'm going to teach you how to write better prompts. So let's just wait for Replit to continue building our mobile app. We can also publish our apps directly to the App Store or the Google Play Store. So now you can see that it's updating app.json and creating all the components and all the different screens. So for a mobile app, we're going to have different screens. So we click on one button, it takes me to the next screen, and we're going to have to build out each screen individually when it comes to iteration, because that's what specific prompting is. Now, specific prompting basically means keeping your prompts as specific as possible. And you might say, well, that contradicts what I told you earlier about giving your prompts as much detail as possible. But when it comes to iteration, when it comes to improving the app, you don't want to give the AI too much feedback all at once. It might get confused, it might hallucinate. You want to give it very specific prompts. So for example, if I want to change the color scheme from red to green, and I also want to add a button at the bottom part of the app, I'm going to tell that to Replit or to whatever vibe coding tool I'm using in two separate prompts rather than putting them both in one prompt. At least that's what I've found works better. I think very specific prompts, giving the AI a very clear instruction, and then waiting for that to be done and then giving it another prompt, that's the best way to go about it. I'm just giving you guys some tips as we're working, as Replit is working. But yeah, we're waiting for Replit to build our mobile app. Until then, I'm going to give you some tips about prompting. So these are just what has worked for me, my personal tips and tricks. Again, the best way to figure out your way for prompting is just to keep on trying and see what works best for you. Try out prompts with different tools, maybe with images, with documents, and you'll eventually find what is most efficient for you. For me, I've shared what it is: spec-driven development, PRDs, detailed prompts, and specific prompting for iteration. So you can see it's creating all of these different files here. If I click on open file, you can actually go here and look at every single line of code. And all of this code is something that Replit has just written. This is hundreds of lines of code that Replit has just coded. 220 lines of code that Replit has coded. And these are all different files. So if I go to, let's say, the skeleton loader and I click on open file, I can see that file right over here. So that's what's great about vibe coding. You always have access to all of the code. You have access to the code in Lovable, in Cursor, and you can look at the code. The code is yours. So this is all really amazing stuff. This is a very, very interesting piece of technology. You can see the AI is now going to create all of the screens and then update the navigation. So now it's creating this screen, then it's creating the home screen. So it's building our application for us, and we have access to all of the code. So if I go to header title or skeleton loader filter button, so then we can see the code for the filter button. And even if you're not a developer, you can actually look at this code, and what you can do later on is in ask mode or plan mode, ask questions, you can ask it questions about the code. We've already covered this in Cursor, and I'm just explaining how it works in Replit. So you can also do that as well. You can ask questions about the code, ask questions about the app, ask questions about things that you don't understand. So it's a very effective way of building software. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the recording, and I'll be back when Replit is done with building this first version of the mobile app for us. Then we're going to test out the mobile app, and then we're going to iterate on it and make our mobile app even better. Okay, so now Replit has built our mobile app for us. It's saying, I've built your luxury watch mobile app with a sleek red and white design. Can you check if the home screen with the hero carousel, collections, and watch listings looks good? So I'm going to head over to preview over here, and you can see that we have a super good looking and professional watch mobile app. And we're going to test this out on our iOS and Android phone in just a minute. But what you can see here is we have a working mobile application that Replit has built for us. You can see that there is a carousel over here, so it's going to keep switching images. This looks very professional. This is an actual application, and we can go down. We can look at the prices for all of these luxury watches, sport, dress, vintage. So it's a very well thought out app, and it's exactly what we asked for. All of these images have been generated by Replit, and it's showing us all of the prices. So this is a very, very nice app. If you guys remember, I went on a tangent earlier talking about Replit and Expo Go, and it does say it's with Expo Go. So Expo Go is basically a free app that allows you to test out this mobile app. For this use case, that's what Expo Go is. And it allows you to build some really cool mobile apps. We're going to be using it when we build a mobile app with Cursor too. So the way to test it out is you just install the Expo Go app on your phone. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. And when you do that, then you can scan this QR code on your phone, and you'll be able to access this mobile application on your phone. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to test out this entire application. This is what the Expo Go application looks like on the App Store. And what you want to do is just download this application, And once you have that and you are ready with Expo Go, you can scan the QR code that Replit has given us and we'll be able to test out our mobile application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan a QR code. And here I'm going to scan this QR code. And now Replit is going to open this mobile app for me. So timepieces, you can see that this is the image that Replit generated. I can see it, or as you can see in the bottom left corner, it's just setting things up. This is only for the first time. And once that is done, it's going to load our mobile app for us and we'll be able to test our mobile app out on our phone. So that's what's great about building with Replit and vibe coding with Replit. You can build an entire mobile app that users can access on their phone. And you can also publish these apps to the App Store and Play Store as well. Okay, and wow, Replit has built this application for us and it looks very professional. So I'm here on my mobile app and I can now see this app. I can scroll through the catalogs. This looks like a professionally designed mobile application. The images are amazing, the design is amazing, and this looks very, very nice. So I have dark mode on my iPhone, which is why the app is in dark mode, but it still looks very nice. I can head over to the catalog. I can head over to the profile section, and this is exactly like a mobile app that I would want. I can iterate on this, I can make this better, but in all honesty, this is actually a very good application. For our objective, which is a watch company selling watches on a mobile app, this is amazing. This is really, really great.
Okay, so now Replit has built out the first iteration of our mobile app for us. And now it's our job to find out what's wrong with this, what are the things that we can improve, and then iterate on that until we get a better and better application. So one thing that I already noticed, and you can see I've already interacted with the Replit agent about this, is that this button in the top right is not working. I can click on it, but nothing happens. And so I mentioned that to the AI agent, and it said, "You're right. The shopping bag icon in the top right corner of the home screen is currently just a placeholder. It doesn't do anything yet because I left the on-press handler empty." And I want to take this moment to just point out, this is one of the reasons why I don't think that AI is going to be replacing human engineers and human developers anytime soon. The AI is great at building, it's great at logic, and it's great at implementing that, but it is always going to make mistakes. It always needs guidance. It always needs us for the iteration. I've vibe coded many applications, and I can tell you that for sure. At least for now and for a couple of years, it will need humans to guide it and to push it in the right direction, to nudge it, to let it know what's wrong, what's right. All of that stuff needs to be done by humans. The AI is not capable of doing that yet. It has good logic, but for example, this is a very simple example. It has a button over here, but it's not working. A human could have spotted that easily. The AI did nothing about it. So that's just one example. A lot of people in my comment section ask me about that, so that's why I'm bringing it up here. Anyways, so now it's offering two options for it to fix this button. So it's saying it'll create a cart screen where users can view items they've added to their cart, and that's exactly what we want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to build mode. I asked this question in plan mode. I've already talked to you guys about plan and ask mode, so this is just one of the examples of using it. So I had a question about why is this not working. I asked it to Replit AI in plan mode, and now I'm going to transition to build mode, and now I'm going to say, sure, go ahead with option 1. And I hit enter, and now it's going to start building it for me. And so then when we check it out and we click on this, we're going to have a cart screen where we can see the items and the watches that the user has added to the cart. So this is how you reach perfection in an application. You keep on iterating, you figure out what's not working, and then you iterate on that to make it work and make it better. So what we're going to do now is we're going to wait for Replit to build out this screen. So let's see what Replit is doing here. All right, it's thinking. I'll create a full cart screen with cart management functionality. Let me implement this. So this is how I would recommend using plan mode along with build mode across different vibe coding tools, whatever vibe coding tool you're using. Whenever you have a question, start with plan mode, start with ask mode. Whenever you feel like something's not working or you want to do something, start there, ask some questions, ask any doubts that you might have, and then transition to build mode once you have a clear picture on what you want to do. This actually saves a lot of money because otherwise you can end up spending a lot of money on just building and realize that, well, it didn't get built the right way. So what you want to do is really plan it out first and then proceed to build, rather than just building and then having to revert and do a lot of things like that. So always plan it out with the AI always ask questions, as many questions as you want, and then proceed to build. That's a much safer way for vibe coding. So now it's implementing the use cart hook, cart screen, and updating the navigation. Again, all you have to do is just sit back and wait for Replit to build the app for you. So after this, we're also going to be building a mobile app with cursor. It's going to be quite similar. The process is going to be quite similar, but just so that you guys are capable of building it with the different tools, I'm going to cover that as well. So let's wait for Replit to come up with this screen, and then we'll be back when it's ready. One thing that you can see here is Replit is actually testing out the application before presenting it to us. So the AI is actually going through the app on its own, and it is testing out the application. So it's saying, I'm checking the shopping bag now, and it looks like the watch I added is here. I can see its details, the quantity is set to 1. So you can see that it's actually able to test what I just asked it to implement. So I asked it to implement a screen and a feature, and before it gave me that feature, it tested it out by itself to make sure that it works. That is amazing. That is truly amazing. So now, if I click on this button, it takes us to the cart screen. And we're going to fix this button later on, but you can see that we now have a working cart screen. And so if I add a watch to that screen, if I click on add to cart, it should reflect in the view cart here. And there you go. So now you can see that. And this looks great. This is in dark mode, and it's great. It's a working functional feature, and it looks pretty decent. I mean, what else can you expect from a view cart screen? But this looks great. So now you can see that in just a couple of minutes, Replit AI was able to implement this feature, and it tested out the feature before giving it to me. So let's say in that test, when Replit was testing this out, so you can see right here, the app is running, let me test the cart functionality. And so you can see that it started, so I'm starting to test the website by first setting up the browser and navigating to the home page. Then I've confirmed that the Lux timepieces header is showing loud and clear. Now I'm going to click that bag to peek inside and see what's up. So you can see this very, very clear thinking. And then once it clicked the shopping bag icon, it's looking for the shopping bag page to pop up. And it'll also look, so it knows what to look for. And then I've confirmed that the shopping bag screen is open and it correctly shows your cart is empty as expected. So now it's heading back to the main screen, and now it's going to add an item. So we can move on here. And now I'm clicking on one of the watch cards to see its details, and it has a big add to cart button ready for me to use. So then it's going to click, I'll make sure the add to cart button is there, and then click it to add this beauty to my bag. It has humor, very subtle humor as well. So this is very, very smart from the AI. First, it built out the entire feature. It understood what I want. And then it actually autonomously tested the entire implementation and entire build of the feature with the whole process from first principles. It went through every single step that the feature requires, everything that the user would do. The AI did it. And it did it to test whether or not the feature is actually working. And so you can see the step-by-step thinking process of the AI as it tested out the feature. And in the end, it says everything on the Lux Timepieces app looks good. So that's why this is amazing. It was able to test out the entire feature. Now let's iterate more. So one error that we noticed was that if we have nothing over here, if I remove this, then this button does not look great. So let's improve the look of this button now. And so this applies to any mobile app that you're building or any app that you're building with vibe coding tools. This is essentially the best way to go about it. You get your app and then you keep iterating. I know I keep stressing about iteration, but that is only because it is the best way to get a full-fledged working application. So now, for example, in your application, if there's something that doesn't look good, something that you want to fix, you give the prompt, a very specific prompt about what you want to fix, and then the AI fixes that, and you move on to the next thing, and the next thing, and you build the next thing. Eventually, you'll have a really nice application. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say, on the shopping bag screen, this screen right over here, this button does not look great. And we're also going to tell it why this button doesn't look great. Again, very specific prompting. The browse collection button does not look good. So we're specifying which screen, then which element are we talking about. So in this case, it's the browse collection button. And then we're going to explain why it doesn't look good. So you have to guide the AI. You cannot expect the AI to come up with conclusions on its own. It can, but sometimes they can be wrong. So if you want to be safe, you should specify what you want to fix, what is wrong, all of that. So what's wrong here is that there's no space between the edges of the button and the browse collection text. So what I'm going to say is there is no space between the edges of the button and the browse collection text horizontally. And the reason I've written horizontally is because we're not talking about this space. There is space here. We're talking about that there should be some space over here on these two edges. So I'm going to hit enter, and I'm just going to say, please fix it. Right? And I'm going to hit enter, and now we're going to allow the AI to fix this button for us. So this is what iteration is. We find out what we don't like, and we tell it to the AI, and the AI improves that. And when you do this at scale, when you do this with dozens of hundreds of prompts, that's when you build really great, advanced, extremely good, and useful applications. So let's wait for Replit to finish this out. So you can see it's decided on the button padding. It's editing these screens, and now it's saying fixed. The browse collection button now has more horizontal padding around the text, giving it proper spacing from the button edges. The change will be reflected automatically via hot reload. So let's try to see if it's there. And all right, so we do not see this change reflecting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit refresh. And if it doesn't work even then we're going to tell the agent about that again. So let's wait for it to load the application. All right. And I click here and it's not fixed. Select element. So we're going to select this element, this button. All right. And it is still not fixed. And I'm going to hit enter, and we're going to wait for it to fix this. So I've hit enter, and I've selected this element. So you can go with taking a screenshot or selecting the element. Both of those things effectively do the same thing because you're pointing to the AI. You're telling the AI this is the location that I'm talking about on the application. So now it's saying I see the issue, and now it's saying fixed. It should now have proper spacing around the text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit refresh, and it should have proper spacing. Now, if it doesn't, that means we're caught in a loop. And I'm also going to teach you how to fix when you arrive in such a situation. So sometimes you get caught in a loop. You keep telling the AI to do something, and it doesn't do it. It keeps getting stuck on the same thing. And this is a terrible way for vibe coding. So there's a way to fix that. I'm going to show you that in just a second. So you can see it's still not fixed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the AI to take a step back and then reason again. This usually happens because there's a false assumption in the AI's context. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to take a step back. So let's see what I write here. Take a step back. I am talking, and we're going to be very clear about what we're talking about. I am talking about the browse collection button on the shopping bag screen. There is no space between the letter B and the left edge of the button. So you can see I'm being even more specific now because it's stuck, so I need to. And no space between the N letter, between the letter N, and the right edge of the button. Right, so I'm specifying the real problem. There needs to be some space here, and there needs to be some space here. Please add some space so that the button looks uniformly good. Right, and I'm going to hit enter, and now it should fix this since we've been very, very clear. And that's what you want to do when the AI is unable to fix a problem. You want to really take a step back, explain the problem to it again, this time even more specific than before. So let's see what it's doing. This is one of my justifications for why AI is not replacing humans anytime soon. You can see clearly that this is a very simple issue that it's not able to fix. That's okay. I mean, I can't expect too much, but we're still going to have to iterate on this a bunch of times. So now it's saying I can see from the screenshot that the button has 0 padding. Let me check what's happening and fix it properly. Maybe it's identified the issue. I'm not sure. Maybe this works. So I see the issue. The padding horizontal shorthand might not be working properly on web. Let me fix the button component using explicit padding left and padding right. Let's see if this works. I don't know. I don't really trust it right now because it's been stuck on this issue for 3 or 4 prompts. But if it does work, then that's great and we can move on. So, all right, now it's testing the app again. Thoughts will show up here. So one thing I love about this Replit AI agent testing is that it's very thorough. It usually doesn't return the application to you until it's sure that it's working. That is for a very thorough test. Sometimes when you're doing very small prompts, it does not do that. But in this case, you can see it's testing it for the second time before returning the application to us. So there is at least a lot of effort from the AI agent's part. And now you can see the button is fixed. So it does take some time. Sometimes the AI does get stuck, but as long as you're there to point it in the right direction, it does get fixed. So this is one example of a tough case of iteration. This was a very simple thing that the AI got stuck on for a couple of minutes and a couple of prompts. So if you do face that, there's really nothing to it. You just have to keep on iterating, keep on being more specific, pointing it in the right direction, and eventually hoping that it will figure it out. And it usually does after a couple of prompts. If it's not, then you have to take a step back, again from first principles, explain what the issue is, explain what the AI has already tried to do to fix it, and then go for it. So you have to keep on doing that until it works. And now you can see we have a working, better looking button with more padding on both sides. So now it's saying fixed. The browse collection button now has proper horizontal spacing. The text no longer touches the button edges. There's clear padding on both the left and right sides. And now you can see we have that. And now the button looks decent. So that was this case of iterations. Now we're going to move on and build some even better things.
So after a couple of prompts and a little bit of frustration, we've fixed this one issue or this bug, whatever you want to call it. And now it's fine. The button looks great. It's working fine. And it's okay. So this essentially just goes to show you what debugging in vibe coding looks like. So essentially all we can do if you're someone who has no programming experience is just keep telling the AI what the issue is and wait for the AI to fix it. But there are some nuances to that, some caveats. The way you want to do that is by always telling the AI to take a step back. You want to let it see the bigger picture. If the AI is going to be constrained within its context, there are chances that it's going to have a false assumption and it's going to keep messing up again and again, like you just saw. So in scenarios like this, the best way to debug is to allow the AI to escape that, point it to a new direction, a new approach, and then allow it to fix that. So you can see that only when it identified this issue was it able to fix our error. Until then, it was just saying that it fixed it, but it did not fix it. So you want to keep pointing the AI in the right direction when it comes to debugging. Again, this is a very simple example of an issue. A lot of times you will face some more complex issues when building your applications, but the approach is always the same. The approach is you keep pointing it out to the AI, you keep explaining the issue to the AI, and giving it as much information as you can, and eventually it will fix it. Now, on the bright side, there are some things that are really great about vibe coding when it comes to debugging. The first is a lot of times the AI will automatically identify bugs on its own and fix it on its own. You really don't have to do anything. So that is also really great. And if you're facing a traditional error where it gives you the error number and maybe some details about the error, all you have to do is copy that error and paste it into the AI, and the AI will take it on its own. It will fix it on its own. You don't really have to stress about it too much. If we encounter these issues later on in the course, I'll be sure to show you how I debug them live. But until then, I think that's enough for debugging. I've given you the first principles and the basics that you need to solve any issue. This was a very basic one, but as long as you have these principles in mind, you will be able to solve any issue that you come up with in vibe coding. Now that we're done with a basic example of debugging, we're going to narrow down our focus onto turning this prototype of an application into a customer-ready application. So what are we going to do? We're going to verify the user flow. What I mean by that is we're going to put ourselves in the shoes of the user. We're going to imagine ourselves as the customer, and we're going to check out what's wrong with the application and what we need to add and what we need to fix. So if I'm a user and I just downloaded Lux Timepieces, I heard it's a great platform to purchase watches, and now I click on this watch right over here and I add this to my cart, then I can head over to my cart and I see that I have one of these watches added to my cart. So if I head back here and I click on add another and I go back to the cart, now I can see that I have two of these watches. So it's great until now. But then when the user clicks on proceed to checkout, nothing happens. And so we need to fix that. So what we're going to do is we're going to head back to the agent and we're going to tell it to build out this implementation where I can click on proceed to checkout and it takes me to a checkout screen. So I'm going to say using the same design, build out a screen for the user when the user
clicks on proceed to checkout. Right now, nothing happens, right? I'm going to hit enter and it's going to build a screen for me when I click on proceed to checkout. So this is essentially how you go from a prototype to a production level application. You imagine yourself as the user and you go through every single step, every single possibility that the user would have while interacting with the app, and you build it all out in this way, in this manner. You figure out what you need to do, you tell the agent does it. If it's done, then great, you move on to the next thing. If not, then you debug just the way we did a couple minutes ago. So let's see what it's saying. It's saying, I'll create a checkout screen with the same luxury design. Let me build this out. And so now it's building our checkout screen for us. So let's wait for it to build it out. And this is essentially what we're going to keep on doing. So we're going to keep on looking through the app and we're going to think about the features that we want. So for example, the checkout screen, we would want a payment feature, or we would want more details here, or similar products. We could have similar product section here. So that's essentially how you go from a basic prototype to a production grade application. You just iterate until you have all of the features. There's nothing more to it. And that's what we're going to be doing right now. So one idea that I just had that I really like is a similar products section. So beneath the description, we'll also add a more like this or similar products section where it's going to show some more watches that are like the one that the user has just selected. And similarly, whatever app you're building, you just want to think about new features, new ideas, and add those as well. So let's wait for Replit to be done with implementing the screen, and then we'll test it out. So what is it doing? All right, so you can see that it's deciding a bunch of different things, executing a bunch of things, editing a bunch of things, and now it's tested the checkout flow functionality. So that's one thing that is amazing about a lot of vibe coding tools. They will always test before giving it to you. They will test on its own. That's essentially what autonomy means here. All right, so now you can see it's opened up the test and it's going to start testing the checkout functionality. So it's checking out the checkout flow test. So let's see what it does. The way this testing works is it actually goes through the app itself and it displays what it's going through over here. And you can even watch a replay of this later on. So you can see the replay of how the AI tested out the application. So now what it's going to do is it's going to add a product to the cart. And then once it does that, it's going to click on proceed to checkout and it's going to see if it's actually working. And if it's not working, then it's going to go back and try and fix it on its own. If it is unable to fix it even then, that's when the human steps in and fixes it for it, or at least guides it. So as you can see, it's looking for the add to cart button to continue its shopping adventure. Now it's going to click on add to cart. I'll just click this button here and then I'll head back to see my shopping bag. So it's clicking on add to cart. Now it's going to head to see the shopping bag. I'll be sure to click on the shopping bag icon next to see if my watch is there. So it's going to click on the shopping bag icon. You can see the step-by-step thinking, the clarity in its thinking, and that is why this is such a powerful technology. So now it's here and it can see the item that it just added, and I'm expecting to see the watch I added along with the button to move forward with the purchase. So now it's going to click on proceed to checkout once it identifies that button. I've confirmed that the shopping bag correctly shows the watch I added along with the proceed to checkout button. Now I'm going to click out on that button to move on to the checkout process. And now it's filling in the necessary details and you can see that it has built the actual checkout screen for us. And now there's a place order button, which should be ready to go. So essentially this is all we needed. We don't need the place order button to work just yet. We just need this screen to work, but it looks like it's already built that for us. And wow, it even has an order confirmed screen. So you can see this is the level of autonomy that these AI agents have achieved, especially the Replit AI agent. It is able to build this entire functionality, this entire screen for us. So now that it's done with its test, it's going to present the app to us, and now we're going to run our test to make sure that it's working. So let's wait for it to give us the application, and then we'll test it out on our own. These are just the steps towards reaching a production grade application. All right, so now you can see it's restarted the front end and the back end, and now it's saying, I've built out the checkout screen with the very same luxury design. Here's what's included. So order summary, contact information, shipping address, order total, place order button. And then after the place order button, it gives us an animated success screen with a checkmark icon. order confirm message with an order number, for example, something like this, and then a continue shopping button to return to browsing, and the cart is automatically cleared. So the clarity in the logic is just magical here. So now let's try this out for ourselves. So if I want to add this classic rose watch, I'm going to head over here, and it's a rose gold watch. I'm going to click on add to cart. I head over to my cart, and now I can see this one. I'm going to remove this. We had it earlier. So we have this watch here, $12,500. I click on proceed to checkout, and now it takes me to a checkout screen. And you can see that this is amazing. So now I'm going to enter in my details here. So my first name, Mon, last name, Gupta, email, let's leave the email blank for now. And all right, I think I'm going to have to enter in something. All right, so now after entering all the details, I can click on place order, and it takes me to this animated screen, and this looks great. This was a very smooth animation, and now it's saying order confirmed. Thank you for your purchase. Your order has been placed successfully, and you will receive a confirmation email shortly. So now, if I wanted to add an actual payment, what I could have done is on this screen, after proceed to checkout, I could add a payment button over here with Stripe or some other integration, and it's not that hard. You just have to tell the agent to do that as well, just like we've been doing until now. So whatever you want to add, it's very simple. You just tell the AI what you want to add, and then you let it test it, and then you test it by yourself, and you keep repeating this process until you have the exact application that you want, and then you're ready to go. So one more feature that I'd love to add is a similar product section below the description. So I'm going to tell that to the agent. I'm going to be very transparent with it. I'm going to tell it exactly what I want. So I want a similar products section below the description for each product. In the similar products section, I want the user to be able to see other watches like the current one they are seeing, with an option to view them in detail as well. So again, this is just me describing my imagination to the AI, and you don't necessarily have to follow my way of describing to the agent. You essentially just want to get the message across. So whatever you have in your mind, whatever you're picturing or imagining that you want for your application, just describe that to the AI agent in the best way that you can. And as long as you do that, you'll be fine. So now, basically what I've described is below this description section, I want a similar product section where it shows some more watches that are similar to the one that the user has currently selected. So I'm going to hit enter. I'm just also going to say, please build this out. And I'm going to hit enter. And now Replit AI agent is going to build out this feature. And I know I keep on repeating this, but this is essentially what it takes to build great applications that are useful and advanced. It's just as many iterations as you can do. So we're only spending a couple of hours on this course, but if you really want to build great applications, you're going to have to spend a couple of days. There's no reduction in the effort. It's just a different way of effort. You still have to iterate a lot to build great applications, just like you would if you were a traditional programmer. You have to spend time. So what we're doing right now is just giving you an idea of how that works, how to iterate, but it's up to you on how far you want to take this method and how big of an application you want to build. So it's saying I'll add a similar product section to the watch detail screen. Let me update both the watch's data file with a helper function and the screen. So let's wait for it to do its thing. And once it's done, we will have a similar product section below the description. If we don't, we can always iterate again. So let's wait for it. Again, we can always go here and see what it's doing. We can view the changes if we want. So if I click on view changes, I can go to the code and I can see the changes that it's made. So it's removed one line of code and it's added 4 lines of code. So it's added these 4 lines of code and removed this 1 line of code. So it's, again, very transparent. You can see every single different line of code that it's worked on, changed. All of that is completely transparent. So now it's saying decided on product section styling, editing these files. This is truly magical. I love that quote, significantly advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So a couple of years ago, having an AI think about all of this and building this entire mobile app for me from scratch would be magic. But today it's reality and this is truly amazing. So let's wait for it to build this app out for us. It's saying tested similar product screen functionality. So once it's run the test, we know that it's always going to open this up. So now it's going to go through every single step that the user would. So it's going to put itself in the shoes of the user, and now it's going to go through the entire functionality and make sure that it works. Then it's going to return the application to us, and then we're going to test it. So there's a double layer of testing here. That's really great. So this is collaboration between the AI and the human that are building together. You can see I've spotted a cool watch called Submariner Pro, and I'm going to click on it to see all its details. So it's clicked on the watch. I've scrolled down the watch details page, and now I'm looking for the similar watches section. I'm hoping to find a title, Sport Collection Label, and at least 2 watch cards displayed side by side, and that's kind of what I imagined, so let's see if it can see that. I've successfully verified the similar watches section is showing up just right, complete with the title and the Sport Collection label. I can see 2 awesome sport watches listed, each with a picture, brand, model, and price. Now I'm going to, alright, so it looks like it's working. Now we're going to have to test this out by ourselves to verify, because sometimes the AI's test might not be fully accurate. We're just going to have to verify that, but as long as that's done, we now have this new feature implemented into our mobile app. So let's wait for it to return the application to us, and then we'll test it out. All right, so now Replit has built it out, and if I click on, let's say, this watch, and I scroll down, you can see that it shows me similar watches. So different prices, different names, and I can see similar watches from the dress collection. So if I head over to the sport one, and I scroll down, then I see different watches, different prices in the sport collection. So that's exactly what we wanted. We now have a similar watches section that shows us different watches that are related to the current watch. And so that is how you bring your ideas to life. So I just had an idea that I wanted similar watches in the mobile app in this part. And so I added that, and it now exists. So just like that, you keep adding your features, you keep adding your ideas until you have a production grade application. Now, another thing that I notice is not complete in this application is that in the profile section, if I click on orders or addresses or payment methods or notifications language, none of that works right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell the AI agent to build out all of these screens. Again, we're taking this application from a prototype to a production level application. And so these are the things that we need to worry about. So I'm going to say on the profile section, the orders, addresses, payment methods, notifications, language, privacy policy, terms of service. None of these buttons are working. Please build them all out, leading to their respective screens, and build those screens as well. A very frank prompt, and I hit enter. And now it's going to take some time, but it's going to build out all of these screens for us. And that's what we want to accomplish right now. So this is a larger task involving 7 new screens. So you can see it's identifying that this is a heavy task. It's a big task. So now it's saying, let me check the current profile structure and then build everything out. So first it's going to check this, and then it's going to build all of this out for us. So this is a very large task that I've given it, and that's okay because they're all going to be pretty much similar things. It's not too complex. If it's a basic task, you can give it all at once. Sometimes, you have to experiment with what works for you and what doesn't. For me, when it's something like a repetitive task where it just needs to build out multiple screens and give all of them basic data, I think it's fine to stuff that into one prompt. Again, it's up to you. You have to experiment, but I'm okay with this. So you can see it's working on this, and now Replit is going through how to build all of this. So it's planning the profile screen creation, planning parallel screen creation. All of these different screens are now going to be built. So once we're done with this, then we're going to start building a mobile app with cursor. Again, that is also going to be a mobile app for real life, so that you guys see how this applies to solving real world problems. So this is a platform for selling watches. The next mobile app is also going to be a platform that allows us to solve a real problem for real people. So after that, we're also going to focus on building a real client project with Lovable. That's not going to be a mobile app. It's going to be a web app. But again, we're going to really focus on solving real problems because utility is essentially what creates value, and we want to create value here. So let's just wait for it to finish building these screens. I'm going to pause the recording, and we'll be back when all of these screens are ready. And now you can see that it's saying all 7 profile screens are now fully functional. Here's what I built. So account section, preferences section, about section. So if I head over to profile and I click on orders, I can now see a bunch of different accurate orders. If I click on payment methods, I can see Visa, MasterCard, some traditional payment methods. If I click on addresses, I will see some different addresses, one for home, one for office. So you can see not only did it build the screens, but it actually put some thought behind what the accurate content would be for each particular screen. So that's great. If I click on notifications, I can see how I can enable and disable different notifications. And language, I can switch between different languages. So we basically have all of these screens built from one prompt. And so all 7 profile screens are now fully functional. So that is how we are gradually taking this to a production level application. We're going to iterate on every feature until we have everything working. That's really all you need to do. Now I'm going to teach you how to vibe code a mobile app with Cursor. The setup is a little complicated, but after that, it's the same process as building a web app with Cursor. So what exactly do we need to do? The first thing you need is the Expo Go app on your phone and an Expo Go account on that app. Now, if you're following along with me on the Replit mobile app, then you already have that set up. But if you don't, you can install the Expo Go app on your phone and create an account, and you're all ready for that. The next thing you need is to install Node.js onto your computer. So you want to head over to this link, nodejs.org/en/download. And on this link, you can click on the download button right over here or on the bottom and install Node.js for your computer. This will allow you to build the mobile app with Cursor. You need to have the latest version of Node.js, and if you don't, then you want to reinstall it and you'll have the latest version. If you don't have the latest version, it's not going to work. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to Cursor and we're going to set up the application. So I'm going to switch tabs and I'm going to head over to Cursor. I'm going to click on this button right over here to show a new terminal. And now you can see I have my terminal over here. So I'm just going to clear my terminal. And here, what you want to do is you want to paste this command. So I'm going to copy this command. I'm going to head back to my terminal in Cursor, and I'm going to paste this command and hit enter. And this is now going to create an app for me in Cursor. So it's asking, what is your app named? Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building a platform that sells fitness products. And it also tracks your fitness. So it's a multi-purpose application for health and for fitness, and that's what we're going to be building. So the main product is a platform that allows you to view different fitness products, but it also tracks your fitness. So that's the app that we're building. So what I'm going to name it, I'm going to name it Fitness Hub. All right, you can name it whatever you want and hit enter. And now it's going to create the project and set everything up for me. So let's just wait for it to do all of that. And then we'll run the app so that we can test it out on our phone. And then we'll start building. So this is the setup for building a mobile app with Cursor. It's a little different and a little more complicated, but it's nothing too big. If you follow along, you'll be able to do it easily. So let's just wait for this to get installed, and then we can start building the app. All right, so it's installed everything we need for this project. And now what we're going to do is we're going to head over to Fitness Hub. So I'm going to say cd Fitness Hub. If you don't know what that means, just consider it to be us moving into the Fitness Hub directory. So I'm going to hit enter, and now you can see I'm in Fitness Hub. And now what we're going to do is we're going to write npm start. And I hit enter, and now it's going to start the application for me, and we'll be able to test it on our phone. So now, as you can see, it has given me this QR code, and it's running on this link over here as well. But what we're going to do is we're going to scan this QR code with Expo Go Android or the camera app on iOS. So you scan this QR code, and as long as you have the Expo Go app installed and set up on your phone, you will now be able to see a blank screen on your mobile phone that gives you a welcome page sort of thing for an Expo Go application, a basic template, and that means that your project is working. So if you see that screen, then you're ready to start building the mobile app with Cursor. So now what you want to do is you want to click over here and click on New Agent, and you're going to see the chat where you can chat with the AI. So here we're going to write a prompt. Now we've already studied how to write prompts, how to give PRDs. You can do all of that if you want to attach a document for your mobile app, you can do that. You want to write a natural language prompt, you can do that. For now, what we're going to do is we're going to write a prompt in natural language, just a simple prompt, and we're going to take it from there. So what I'm going to say is, build me a fitness tracker mobile app that also acts as a marketplace for fitness products. So not only does it track the user's fitness and health, but it also shows the user fitness products. All right, so a very basic prompt, again, off the top of my head, just describing. This is one of the ways that we can write a prompt. We can write documents, we can write specific prompts, but for this mobile app, to give it a start, we're gonna write a prompt that's very simple. So I'm gonna hit enter, I'm in agent mode, and I'm gonna hit enter. And now, this is the same process as we were building a web app earlier for the startup valuation. It's the same thing. Cursor is gonna build the whole thing for us. It's gonna code all of it for us. We don't really have to do anything.
Alright, so in just a couple of minutes, it has built the app for us, and we can test this app out on our phone with Expo Go by scanning the QR code right over here. But what we can also do is just look at what it's built. So let's just take a look at what it's saying it's built to see if that's what we actually requested. So it's saying what's been built: a home dashboard, a marketplace, which is what we said would be our core business. What the client really needs is not only a fitness tracker, but also a marketplace which sells fitness products. So we have that. So product catalog with categories, equipment, supplements, apparel, and accessories, everything you would want in fitness products. And then shopping cart, product cards with images, prices, ratings, and we can verify all of this by testing out the app. And then it's showing us the profile, the user profile, product details, shopping cart, workout selection, and then it's explaining how it built it and how to run it. So we have the app ready. Now I'm on my phone and I'm going to scan the QR code that I saw for opening the application. So I'm going to click on this button right here, and I'm going to scan this QR code. So from Android, you can scan the QR code directly from the app. For iOS, you can do it on your camera or on the QR code scanner. And now you can see it's opened up the application. Now this isn't great, there's a lot of changes that we need to make, but at least now we've built a working application from Cursor that we can test on our mobile phone. So now we have that working, and now we can iterate on this mobile app to make it even better. So the quick start button is just plain white. We need to fix that. We also need to add some more scroll since good morning is hidden and we can't see it properly. And in marketplace, this looks pretty great. The products and the images and stuff like that is okay. But you can see these white buttons, they're misaligned, there's no text on them, and they're completely blank. So we need to fix that. And the profile screen looks okay. Again, we need to add some more scroll since that circular logo at the top is being hidden, and everything else looks good. And the Explore page needs to be built entirely since we don't have anything here yet. So we need to iterate on this to make this better than the first version, but we do have a working application from Cursor onto our mobile phone. So now, one by one, let's mention all of these changes to the Cursor agent, and then Cursor is going to fix that on our mobile app, and then we'll test it out to see if it works. So let's mention the changes one by one. So the first thing that I want to say is to add more scroll on the home screen. We remember that good morning was being hidden from the top, and we don't want that. So I'm going to say on the home screen, that is the first screen that the user sees upon opening the app hides good morning at the top. What I mean by that is I need to scroll upwards in order to be able to see the good morning text. That shouldn't be the case. It should be aligned vertically with the app so that it appears fully upon opening. And so you can see I've just described what's happening, what the issue is, and what it should be. This is an example of a pretty decent prompt. We're telling it what screen we're talking about, what's happening, and what we need to do to fix it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit enter, and we're going to let Cursor handle this for us. Again, my grammar might not be perfect in the prompt. What really matters is the execution here. You don't have to stress too much about things that don't matter. Just get your message across to Cursor in the most effective way possible, and let it handle the rest. So now it's going to add a proper safe space for that. So now you can see it's going into the code, making a couple of changes, and it's going to do everything for us. So now it's saying, fix the header positioning issue, changes, added safe area support, added top padding, and wrapped root layout. The good morning text is now visible when the app opens with proper spacing below the status bar. The padding adjusts automatically for different devices. Alright, so that's the first change that we wanted to make. And there's a couple of other changes that we need to make as well. The second change, if you recall,
was that in the marketplace, the buttons were white and blank, and we don't want that. So let's mention a change. In the marketplace, or on the marketplace screen, the buttons are white and blank. Change that, add text to them for purchase/view details. All right, so the buttons should say either purchase or view details, whatever cursor thinks is best. I'm okay with both. And it should be black, and the button should be black. Let's be very specific. And the button should be black with white text on top. All right, and I'm going to hit enter, and now cursor is going to make this change for me. So you can see that I'm iterating based on what I saw wasn't working. And in order to take this application to the production level or to a really perfect and ideal state, you just need to keep on iterating with cursor, and eventually you'll get there. So you just have to find out what's not working, what you want to add, and keep iterating like we're doing right now. That is essentially all there is to vibe coding. So now you can see it is saying it's updated the marketplace buttons. Both buttons are black with white text. What do you mean? Oh, okay, right. So view details and purchase. So each product has view details and purchase buttons. I was confused because I thought there was only one button, but turns out there's two. So both buttons are black with white text. So that's one thing. And when I click on explore, the screen has nothing. Please build out the explore screen as well. So you don't really have to care about these small things like an extra eye, but you can do that if you want. So please build out the explore screen for me. All right, and you can see the speed of iteration is now much faster because I already looked at everything that I needed to change in the app. I don't have to keep testing it and then coming back. What we're going to do is we're going to make all the changes and then we're going to test it out at once. And if nothing's working then, or if something's not working then, we can go back and we can iterate again. That's essentially all that we need to do. And you can see this coding speed is really amazing. Its clarity is amazing. This is super, super efficient. At least for me, as a process, this is a very efficient process. I don't really have to put in too much effort when it comes to iteration. So now it's saying it's built the Explore screen with workout plans, features, fitness tips, active challenges, everything that you would want in an Explore screen. So now let's scan the QR code again and test out the application and see if these changes reflect. If not, we're going to point that out to cursor. If yes, then we have a working application. All right, so now I've opened up the app on my mobile phone by scanning the QR code. And the first thing that you can see is that good morning is now clearly visible, and I don't have to scroll upwards in order to see good morning. I can already see it. One thing that we missed was this button below quick start, this white space. We need to fix that as well. And the explore screen is working fine. I was just testing this out a couple minutes ago, so you can see that it looks pretty decent and it's working. We need to add some image to featured and do some other stuff as well. But we're going to iterate on this right after this. And then in Marketplace, we have the buttons. The buttons are now here, but they're not aligned correctly. The size is not working properly. And because of that, the text has to move on to the next line. You can see that this does not look good. So we need to tell cursor to fix these buttons. And one thing that we also forgot was to add more scroll on the profile screen. So let's remember all of these changes, head back to Cursor Agent, iterate on this, and get back to testing out our app. All right, so now we're back in Cursor, and we're going to iterate on this again. Now I can understand that this might get repetitive, monotonous, boring, and tedious, and any of those adjectives, but essentially this is what vibe coding is. It does not reduce the amount of effort that you need to put in, it just makes it easier to put in that effort. But we still have to tailor the app to our needs, to our wants. The AI can't do all of that on its own, at least yet. So what we need to do is we need to iterate, we need to tell the AI what we want to fix. So the first thing is, below quick start on the home screen, there is a plain white box. Please fix that and give it the adequate content. All right, so I'm going to hit enter, and now cursor is going to fix that. So let's see what it does. Checking the home screen to identify and fix the plain white box. Enhancing the recent workout section below quick start with more content and better styling. So let's see if it does that. I'm not sure if it really found what I was talking about. We're going to have to test that out. But let's just wait for it to do it. And it should work. Depends on whether or not. Right, so it's saying fix the plain white box below quick start. And it's added something. We'll check this out to make sure that it's working. If not, then we'll describe it in more detail. The next thing is on the profile screen, add more scroll at the top, just like you did on the home screen. Right now, on the profile screen, the circular logo is being cropped, and I have to scroll up to see it fully. Please fix this. And I'm going to hit enter. And so one by one, we're describing every single issue that we encountered while working on the application or while testing the application. And now Cursor is going to fix those for us one by one. Essentially, this is all we need to do. There's nothing more to this. I know I keep on repeating this, but that is to make it very simple and uncomplicate things for you. It is just iteration and iterating with the AI until you achieve what you want. That's all vibe coding really needs to be. All right, so now it's saying the circular avatar is now fully visible when you open up the profile screen without needing to scroll up. All right, now let's describe the issue for the buttons on the marketplace. The buttons were too small, the text was going on to the next line. So on the marketplace screen, the two buttons are not going good together. Remove the details button, and we're going to say only keep the purchase button, and make the purchase button wide so that it fills the full box. So if you guys recall, there were two buttons, and now what we're doing is we're eliminating one of those buttons and we're making the other button wider so that it fills the entire box. So I'm going to hit enter, and now Cursor is going to make this change for us. And when we're done with that, we'll be ready to test out our application. All right, so now it's updated that as well. Now let's scan the QR code and make sure that our app is working. All right, so I've opened up the app, and the first thing that we can notice off the bat is that the button below Quick Start has not been fixed. And so if I click on it, it does work. The button is working, but what we can identify is a very common issue in the application, which is that since the button color is white and the text color is also white, it's not visible. And so that's probably the same thing that's happening over here on this button, this white button. So we're going to change the color from white to blue so that it becomes visible. And if we check the profile screen, now it's fixed. We don't have to scroll upwards. The circular image is clearly visible, placeholder in this case, but it's visible now. And so what we're going to do is we're going to fix this right now. So we're going to head back to Cursor and let's write a prompt that fixes this once and for all. And in Marketplace, we now have the purchase button, and it's all good. I see the issue. The Quick Start, or the button, the white button below Quick Start, has white text on top of it, which is why it looks blank. Please change the color of that button below Quick Start. So you can see I'm being very specific with what button I'm talking about. Please change the color of that button below Quick Start from white to blue. And the reason I'm being so specific is because we need to let the AI identify it. Since it's a iteration that we're repeating multiple times, we want to narrow down our focus and be very specific with the AI. If this was our first iteration, we could have been a little more vague, but since we're doing this again and again, we need to be very specific. So the white button below Quick Start and the color of that button below Quick Start from white to blue. So now I'm going to hit enter, and Cursor should fix this for us. After that, we're also going to fix some more things that I noticed in the application, and that's all we need to do. Then we eventually will have a perfectly fine application, a perfectly good application, and we can add whatever we want. If we want to add a login, all we have to do is tell Cursor to add a login. If we want to add a payment, we can tell Cursor to add a payment. So there's everything that we need to do is just the same process of repetition. So it's updated the recent workout card below Quick Start, changed background from white to blue. So now that should work. And one more thing is when I click on that button, I am taken to a new screen. All right, and when I scroll down on this new screen, so what you're seeing here is I'm being very specific. Again, I'm mentioning each and every single flow so that Cursor really understands what I'm talking about. Otherwise, it's very easy for Cursor to misunderstand and the app to go haywire. So be very, very specific when you're reiterating and when you're fixing things. When I scroll down on this new screen, the button is also white, and the text is white, which is why I don't see anything on the button, and all it looks like is a plain white button. All right, so I'm gonna say change this color to blue as well. Change this button color. Again, we're gonna be very specific because we don't want it to change the text color. So now we've written this prompt, and it's gonna make that change. Again, you can see I'm iterating again and again to make this application better. And so now when we open this application for testing, what you can see is the button has been fixed. So I click on this, it takes me to this screen, and the button over here is also blue. So now we've fixed the issue. So again, if you're facing any problem, if the AI is maybe not fixing what you're telling it to, you just have to keep on going at it again and again, be more specific, narrow down your prompting to be as specific as possible, to point out the issues, point out what it needs to do, and eventually it will happen. So now we have this ready. So what we can do is we can continue to expand on this mobile app, make it better and better. So for example, there's always going to be things that you want to improve in the app. For example, right now on the Explore page, you can see below workout plans this white space above the image, which is not looking great. We can remove that. This is all pretty great stuff. And what we can also do is add something over here. Featured is right now white and blank. We can add something there. In Marketplace, right now there's a bug here, so if I select any of these, it gets hidden because it's white on top of white. So we can fix that as well. And we can add an image to the profile section. We can add login. We can do all sorts of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to iterate a little bit with you guys so that you guys get the hang of it. But essentially, that's all you need to do to build a production-grade application. Just keep on iterating and fixing whatever you want, adding whatever you want, until you have everything ready. So back in cursor, and we can make some more changes. So I can say on the profile screen, add a dummy image for the logo. You may also use an infographic, and I'm going to hit enter, and we're going to make that change. Again, this is just to show you guys how to iterate. You already have learned how to do that by this point in the course, but just so you guys get a deeper understanding on how we can move forward, this is all it is. You just iterate on what you want to change, and eventually you will build out everything that you need. Now, when we're building our last client project with Lovable in a couple of minutes, what I'm going to show you is how to add user login, authentication, and how to make the app secure. So all of that last 20% of the application, we're going to cover right there. So what we're doing right now is just iterating to make this app visually more appealing and make it more functional a little better, and that's what we're doing right now. So that's one change that we wanted to make. The second change that we wanted to make was add an image to the featured section. So on the Explore page, the featured section is empty. Please add some images or content there, detailed. All right, and I'm gonna hit enter, and we're gonna let it do that. So again, I'm being very vague right now. I don't have to get into too much details. I'm letting the AI handle all of it. It's about the flow, right? So when Andrei Karpathy introduced vibe coding, the reason he called it vibe coding, as far as I remember, was to give in to the vibes and let the AI handle stuff. So essentially, that's what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to boss the AI around when we don't really need to. Sometimes we can let the AI take control and build our app out for us. All right, so now it's saying the featured section now includes images and detailed content for each item. So that's pretty much it. What we're going to do now is we're going to test out the application and make sure that it has all of these things, and then we'll start building for user login, authentication, and security on our next project.
Okay, so we're back here, and we can see that the featured section now has really good looking images, and this featured section looks very nice. So expert workout routines, nutrition, and meal plans with relevant images for both. And in the profile section, we now have an infographic right over here acting as the placeholder. So it's all good. We've iterated on that. Now, if there's things you want to make, things you want to add, all you have to do is just keep on iterating the way we've been doing so far. Now let's move on to building our client project with Lovable and finishing everything that we would need to learn for building a complete application.
Alright, so now let's get started with building our final project for this course, and along the way we'll learn how to design beautiful UIs, how to build a backend, databases, authentication, and all of the things you need to wrap up the application and make it advanced. So what exactly are we going to be building for this client project?
Well, we're building a dashboard for a car rental service provider business. So there's a guy who runs a business of renting cars, and what he wants is a dashboard where he can track his entire business. So he wants to be able to track the profits, the revenue, which cars are being rented, upcoming visits for cars, which cars are most profitable, which cars have the most rentals, which customers are booking from him. So all of that stuff is what he wants to be able to view on his dashboard. He also wants his employees to be able to log into the dashboard and access the statistics. So we're also going to need to build a user login system and authentication so that the employees can log in. And we'll also need to secure the application so that no unauthorized entity or person can log into the application. So there's a lot of stuff that we need to do, but the first thing that we're going to do is come up with a UI design. All right, so there's two ways to go about designing a UI when you're vibe coding. The first is to let the AI handle it. So the AI comes up with the UI design, designs it on its own, implements it on its own, and that's one way to go about it. The second way is to tell the AI what you'd like, and that is usually done with visual references. And this is the method that I would recommend for the best outputs, the best designs, and the best UI. So there's three ways to go about this approach. The first is Figma designs. So if you don't know what Figma is, it's basically a tool that allows you to design, especially for UI and UX. So if you have a Figma design, you can use that in your application. You can show it to Lovable or Replit or Cursor. You can take screenshots of your design. You can import your design if possible, and you can use that to give the AI inspiration. That's one way to go about it. The second is with an AI-generated reference, and this is something that is quite new. So something that I've done over here is I've used ChatGPT to generate this dashboard. I gave it a simple prompt of what I want to build, and it gave me a dashboard, and I iterated on that to get what I wanted, and now I have this dashboard. So this works great depending on your application. You can try it out with maybe Gemini or Claude. I'm using GPT here. And once you have that image, your AI-generated reference image is also good enough to give the AI some inspiration. Or you can give it inspiration from similar apps, which is something that we did in the first application that we built. So if you're building something like a shoe company or a landing page for a shoe company, what you can do is you can tell it to take inspiration from the design used on various shoe company websites, multiple shoe company websites, whatever you want to give inspiration to the AI from, you can mention that in the prompt. So these are three different ways to go about getting some good designs in vibe coding. And what we're going to be doing for our application is this one, so the AI generated reference image, but you can try all of these out. They're very basic, nothing too complicated. So what I've done is this AI generated image, I've saved it as a screenshot. So I have my reference image for the dashboard saved over here. And now in Lovable, I'm going to paste this screenshot, and I'm going to tell Lovable to take inspiration from this UI design when it builds our application. So now we have a reference image that the AI can refer to when it's building our application. And that reference image was generated by us using a separate AI tool, in this case ChatGPT. So now I'm going to say, I am building a car rental service provider dashboard. It is intended for the owner of the business to use. All right, so the owner is going to be using this dashboard. The dashboard should show the owner all the important information about his or her car rental business. You can take inspiration from the attached image for what it should include. All right, so what we're saying is you can take inspiration from this image for what the dashboard should include. You also need to take UI inspiration from the attached image. Make it as close as possible to the attached image. Build out the UI first. We will build the backend, database, etc. later. All right, and I'm going to hit enter. And now we're going to wait for Lovable to generate this UI for us and generate the first iteration of the application. Then we're going to integrate stuff like backends and databases, but first let's wait for the UI to be designed and generated. So it's taking in our prompt, it's thinking, and this is the paid version of Lovable now. Earlier on, we were using the free version. And so it's saying, I'll build a sleek, dark-themed car rental dashboard matching your reference image. This design evokes premium automotive dashboards with a dark, sophisticated aesthetic using lime green accents. And that's exactly what we had over here. We had lime green accents on top of a black, dark screen. So first version features, it's mentioning all of that. All of this is picked up from the image. So top vehicles ranking is something that we had over here. So it's picking all of this up from the image. Fleet utilization was right over here. So it's taking everything from the image, and then it's telling us about the design system, and now it's saying, let me build this now. And it's generating images by itself. So if I click on show all, you can see that it's generating images, it's writing CSS, and it's designing everything for us. So let's wait for it to design the entire UI, and then we'll be able to add backend and login and user authentication and other things like that to this dashboard application. So now it's saying, let me create the dashboard components. So we're already clear about this. It's step-by-step thinking. We don't have to do anything. We can just wait for it to build the entire thing. So I'm going to pause the recording and we'll be back when Lovable has built the UI dashboard. All right, so Lovable has given us the first version of our application in terms of the UI. And while it's not exactly the same, it does mimic what we entered as a reference image. So it is very similar to that in terms of what it's included. So we have a top vehicle section with top vehicles images. We have recent reservations with the customers, upcoming pickups, the utilization rate, everything that we had over here. So recent reservations, top vehicles, upcoming pickups, utilization rate. So you can see that it took a lot of inspiration from the dashboard. And if we want to iterate on minor things, we can do that as well. For example, this logo right here is not the same as this logo right here. If we want to do things like that, we can just write prompts and make those changes. But right now we're going to focus on the essence. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open this in a new tab so that we can view this better. So I'm going to click on publish. And so what we can do is we can just name this. So I'm going to name it car dashboard.lovable.app. I don't know if that's going to be available, but let's try. All right, so car dashboard 22. All right, and I'm going to save that. And now I can click on publish. And this basically allows me to access my application on a URL on a browser. So I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to wait for this to get published, and then I'm going to be able to access it in a new browser tab. So let's just wait for it to be published, and then we'll try it out in a new browser tab. Then we can see what we need to do. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to this link, and let's wait for it to load. All right. So now we have our application, and this looks pretty decent. This actually looks great. And this is very, very similar to the reference image. Now in full screen mode, it actually looks much better. So now we can see that we have all of this. This looks great. Now what do we need to do? We need to add a login functionality. So this should not be the first screen that the user sees. The user should be able to log in, and then after logging in, the user sees this screen, and the login should have authentication. So it should verify if the user actually has access or does not have access. And then we also need a database to store all of this information, store the login information, and all sorts of things like that. So now let's go to Lovable, and let's tell Lovable what we need. So the first thing we're going to say is when the user opens the application, they should see a login page. If they enter the correct login details, only then will they be able to access the dashboard. Please build out a working login and authentication system. So Lovable makes this really easy with Lovable Cloud. It's saying, I'll implement a login authentication system. First, I need to enable Lovable Cloud for the backend functionality. So Lovable Cloud allows us to add databases, backends, and AI functionality, a lot of cool stuff. So I'm going to click on allow and enable that. We did this at the start of the course as well. And earlier we used to use tools like Clerk for user authentication, and we can still do that. They're still very good tools. But now with Lovable Cloud, it's a lot easier. So if you want, you can check out a video on my channel on authentication with Clerk for tools like Lovable. But for now, we can do it this way. This is also a very convenient way. I'm just mentioning that in case you want to try out a different way for user authentication.
So Lovable Cloud is now enabled. I'll set up the authentication system with database migration for profile and user roles tables, auth configuration with auto confirm, login page and auth context, protected routes. So I'm just going to click on allow. It's just asking for my permission. And so I gave it the permission to modify the database. We don't really have to do anything. So that's what's great about Lovable. What we've done is we just told it that we want a login system right over here. And after that, it asked me to enable Lovable Cloud and asked me to approve this for it to modify the database. And now it's doing all of it on its own. So it's saying the database is set up. Now it's creating the auth context, login page, and protected route wrapper. So it's a very convenient process, nothing too complicated. So this is really great from Lovable Cloud. Now, if we were doing this with Replit, we could say the same thing to Replit, and Replit would build it out for us on its own. Now, there's a lot of different ways that these tools use this. So some tools use Supabase, which allows you to build backend. Some tools will use some external APIs, a lot of different ways. So just go with the flow, tell the tool what you want, and let the tool decide the best way. If you have any preference, then mention that to the tool. So in this case, we don't have any preference. And now we can see it's actually built a very good login page here. And so we would enter in an email. All right, so now we have this and it's working. So what I want to do is I want to ask a couple of questions to Lovable before I start trying this out. So I'm going to head over to chat mode. All right, so now we're in chat mode. So this is very similar to the plan mode in Replit or the ask and plan mode in Cursor. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, what email and passwords will work? And I'm going to hit enter. Because if it's authentication, then it shouldn't be any email or any password should work. It should have some specific emails and passwords that work. There are no pre-existing users, so we need to click on sign up and then enter any valid email address, click create a password, create an account, and then we will need to log in. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on sign up and we're going to create an account first. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my email, namancgupta@gmail.com, and for my password, I'm going to put in something random like UI. All right, a very basic password, and I'm going to create this account. All right, so 6 characters. So you can see that this is actual authentication. So if this was weak authentication, it would have allowed me to create this password. But Lovable has built some security here, so please lengthen this text to 6 characters or more. So this is an example of really good security and really good authentication being set up in Vibe coding. So UI. All right, and I'm going to create account, and now I have this account. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign in, and now I have access to this dashboard. So now we've built a login functionality, we've built a database, we've built authentication. And this was very, very simple. So a lot of people think this is very complicated, but in today's world, when you're Vibe coding, adding authentication, adding databases is very simple. Now let's take a minute to understand the best security practices that you should keep in mind when you're building apps with AI. The first is good error handling. So sometimes an error message might display some crucial information that you don't want to display to the user. So make sure that all your errors are handled properly and they have specific error messages that don't show any other information other than what you want to show. The second best practice is to always keep everything updated. So that goes for dependencies and packages and modules. You want to make sure that everything is up to date. Now, you also have secure authentication, which is something that we just set up. Make sure that your authentication is very, very secure. So people should not be able to log in without access. There should be password protection and all sorts of things like that, like we just set up. So secure authentication. Then validate all user inputs. So you want to make sure that the user is not entering in some suspicious information, suspicious data, suspicious file formats. All of that should be taken care of. You also want to keep all your API details on the server side, not on the front end. Sometimes you display them on the front end and that can get very messy and harmful. So always keep your API keys and API details protected. And then the last thing is spam protection. So you want to make sure that your app is protected from people just spamming inputs into your login field or into whatever you're building. So make sure you have that set up. If you want, I can release a specific video on these security practices. There are too many to mention here, but these are just some crucial ones that I think you should keep in mind when you're Vibe coding. Alright, so all that's left for us to do now is to finish building this application for our client. So by now you've understood what we're going to do. I bet you can guess, it's just iteration.
So we're going to iterate, we're going to build all of these parts, we're going to make sure everything is perfect. We already have user login set up, so let's get started. So what we're going to say is build out the reservations screen, the vehicles screen, customers screen, reports screen, and settings screen. Give them similar good looking UIs and add a lot of elements and relevant details on each screen. All right, so I'm stuffing all of this into one prompt. We could have gone for specific prompting for each particular screen, but we're not going to do that right now because I think it's repetitive. I think that it's easy in this use case. Again, I mentioned this earlier. It depends on what you're building. In this case, we're just building multiple screens, so we can tell the AI to build it all at once. It's going to take some time and it's going to do that. If it was something more complicated, like fixing an issue or iterating on some very specific things, then we would give them in specific different prompts. But here we can give it all in one prompt since it's simply just building out multiple screens. So let's wait for Lovable to build this out. All right, so now it's saying I'll build out all 5 screens with polished UIs matching the dashboard aesthetic. Let me first explore the current structure to ensure consistency. So it's going to explore this structure, and then it's going to make sure that it's consistent on all the other screens. And you can see it's identifying tasks for it to complete. So this is great. We're just going to iterate, and we're going to finish the course. We're just going to finish this project for our client. I also have a bonus for those of you who have stuck around until the end. I'm going to give you some specific tips at the end, so just wait for that. So let's just wait for it to finish creating the reservations page, then vehicles page. So it has separated them into different tasks, and then it's taking those tasks one by one. So you can see it's editing reservations.tsx, and then it's now it's editing vehicles.tsx. So it's turned them into separate tasks, and then it's working on each of those tasks individually. So I'm going to pause the recording, and I'll be back when it's done with all of these different screens. Okay, so Lovable has now built out all of these screens for us. You can see it's saying all 5 screens have been built with full UIs matching the dashboard aesthetic. And it's saying the sidebar now navigates between all pages. So I click on reservations, I can see reservations, and this looks great. So these are working filters. You can see this looks great. It works great, and it's exactly what our client would want. Our client can see the customer, their emails, their vehicles, their pickup, their return, how much money, the status, everything that they would need, a booking ID, and we can customize this to our client's preferences, and we can make these emails real, of course. Right now it's just mock data, but we can reflect this for each customer. The client would have to enter that in on their own. And then we have different vehicles, so all of these random hypothetical vehicles here, and then the customers, so each customer, their contact information, again, obviously hypothetical customers, but this is exactly what you would want in a database. And in a dashboard that reflects all of these customers, a database of all the customers. So this is perfect. This is actually really good from Lovable. And in reports, we can see revenue versus expenses, monthly profit, fleet by category. So we can see that SUVs are the highest, then followed by sedans, then sports, then electric, and then luxury. So this is actually really great. This is all really good stuff from Lovable. And then we have a settings, where we can upload a photo, we can edit our details, we can add preferences. So this is all really great stuff. We have a fully working, ready application that we can now show to our client, and we built it pretty quickly. We didn't have to do too much. So now you can keep on iterating on this to your client's preferences or to your preferences, but I think it's good for now. We have login set up, we have authentication set up, databases set up, and every single screen is now working. So thank you for watching till the end of this course. The bonus tip that I have, this applies to anyone who is interested in vibe coding, is appreciate this technology for what it is. All right, so you don't have to have too high expectations from vibe coding, but you also don't want to deny this technology. This technology is coming, and it is our responsibility as engineers, entrepreneurs, developers, and learners to adopt it. So what I would recommend is try and experiment with these tools. There's more tools out there. There's Claude Code, there's Bolt.new. Experiment as much as you can. Don't be hesitant for experimentation. It's the way I've learned, it's the way people around me have learned, and it's the best way to learn, always by doing, never by watching. So if you've watched this course all the way until now, you know everything that you need to get started
After that is just how much you practice, how much you build, and it's entirely up to you. Thank you for watching this course. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. If you liked it, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Peace.